Okay, hello everybody. This is Don Wall, and I'm very happy to share some techniques for animating your fabulous Slooh images here today with this little tutorial video. I do want to apologize because I do not use Adobe Photoshop, but if you are familiar with Adobe After Effects, I think you might find this a very useful tutorial. And if you do not use that program, perhaps the tools that are available in Photoshop, and I know there are quite a bit, will allow you to do somewhat of a similar kind of animation, because it's really just a matter of layering and how you composite different images to create the illusion of a 3D object out of 2D images. Okay, so with that said, let me just go ahead and get started. What I'd like to work on here in this video is the first animation I started with, because it's somewhat the simplest overall, and here it is, the famous Tarantula Nebula, and I had no idea there was anything like that out there in space, but just so appreciative of all the wonderful people here I'm getting to know at Slooh, and all the support everybody so readily gives me. Every question I have, I can't believe how fast I get responses. So here we go. Okay, I've loaded up an original image I captured about a month ago, and what I'm showing here now is a solo of that image. This is the actual image, and what I had to do at first was to change a few features of the photo's light values. Here in the center, there's a lot of extra light that we can composite from the image if we can change up some of the exposure values. And we do a little process of adding in several versions of the same photo together, and what we do is we bring in a lot of extra light in the center of this object here, which looks right now like it has a lot of extra noise going on, but I have the filters to reduce all that, but I need to have that light to really achieve what I would like to do. Now, as a 3D artist, one of the things that we want to try to achieve most of all, of course, is parallaxing, which means that as a camera moves closer to an object, you don't see the whole object coming, straight back at you like some kind of a pancake, but you want to see the individual pieces of that object move in a different angle to how the camera is also moving. And the way we can do that is we can try to break down some of the image and set it in 3D space, where we move it on the Z or the Z axis. And so what we have is a blending of different layers. And in this particular image, what I saw I could do and I wanted to bring out was the idea of actually getting into the heart of this nebula and seeing maybe some of the outer reaches of the space dust here kind of fly by you along with all the stars as you progress inward to it. And so here's just some of the ways that I went about that. Okay, what I'm going to do now is switch over to a different, let me go back out here first of all, because there's something I really want to bring out, and that is, with any kind of software, you really want to manage your space well, organize, just as Paul has done such a great job with the downloads of the files for all the images that are preset for the users. For instance, I'm going to create a new bin right here and make a file for audio, and I'm going to go ahead and stick some music in there that has been out front here. And then sometimes in that, just try to keep yourself as organized as possible, because it will definitely cut down your frustrations when you go into doing any kind of image processing. So in here, I'm going to switch over to what I've taken, these 5 layers here now, the base image and then some screened light exposures, and I've pre-composed them. In other words, they've all been meshed together, and I import them into a second composite of the same image. And now over here, I can show you some of the layering that I'm effects that I'm using. And one of the things that is really going to be instrumental for you to really achieve a good space type of animation is to have the element of stars that are basically 3D 3D particle system. In After Effects, we have a wonderful particular plugin, and I'll just go ahead and go down here, and that plugin is called Trapcode Particular. I'm going to show how that actually operates. In Photoshop or whatever graphic program you're using, you very well may have plugins that you can purchase or may even be in the software that achieve this kind of particle system emitters that will work into your animation to bring it to life. Okay, so first of all, let's go to the base. Here is the first image, and what I've done here is use an effect called Reduce Noise. It's an extra plugin that helps isolate some of the background clutter away from the main features of the image. Normally we don't use it on these kinds of images that are actually so busy, but if you go into your auto profile, it will find a spot for you, and you may be using this kind of a reduction filter already in the applications that you use. And so one of the things again that I like to try to draw out is the difference of dimension inside this nebula. What I'd actually like to do is feel like I can float into the heart of this particular object. So what I did is created a second layer, and this is my second layer. I'm going to solo that now. And what I've done is take the same image and I rotated it slightly so it has some variance to it. I scaled it up, and then I rotated it. Then I screened out or masked out the interior because I didn't want the extra light in the background, but also the exterior because I wanted my original stars to have more definition. Because I not only have the original stars, but I also have an extra layer of stars for three-dimensionality. Okay, so let me take this back out. And what I've done also with this layer, let me solo that again. You'll see here I've established some keyframes for certain things, like the scaling of the object. I allow it to grow a little bit, and I am trying to create this feeling that we're floating in space, so we don't need real jerky motions. We want to feel like we're out there in a vacuum and as if on a satellite moving around over great distances. So we don't want to see quick movements, nice gentle movements. And so what I did is I've allowed this object to both grow and to slowly rotate, and it's actually going to be maintaining its actual position because the camera itself is also going to rotate. And so this is actually, this object really relative to the camera remains steady, as far, not as far as the growth, but as far as its rotation. And you can see the camera is going to go way in. If I take my camera off, this is where it would be in just terms of how I am scaling it up as an individual layer. Okay, so let me go back and turn that camera back on and see the other image here. It does not have a rotational value to it. It just goes freely with the camera. The camera is doing all the rotating here, and that object layer is just staying the same. Take the camera off again, and as you can see, there's nothing really happening there, but there is a slight change in the rotational y-axis on this to help create that extra parallax that I want to help separate it from the scaled up version of it. Hope this is all making sense. And basically this is just layering different elements of an image to help separate them so that when a camera moves through, we can see differences in how these layers are interacting. The one that is scaled up, I'll just show you a top view here. If I click on this one here, you'll notice that this one is way pushed back in space compared to our other object here. So there's a room for the angle of the camera to show that kind of separation. Okay, let me go back to my regular camera view. And if I'm going too fast here, I really apologize. I've never really done this kind of tutorial before. But here's the real fantastic element to this whole 3D animating in space, and that is our stars. Okay, and this particular image here is really not 2D. It's the 3D that brings to life this whole animation. And let's see, let's go. Well, here's the actual plug-in, and there is an emitter. And what I do is I use what we use the box setup, and I grab my fields for my X, Y, and Z, and I shove them way out so that they are expanded out in all 3 dimensions. And so if we look at this on top, excuse me, this is our layer, and it's centered, but we have stars that are emitting or that have been emitted, and they're in all directions. So when I take my camera and I float it through here, I will notice, however I move the camera, these stars are going to move 3-dimensionally in relationship to themselves. And what this does is it helps to create that illusion that we're not just dealing with a 2D image from our camera, but we're moving into or through these different objects, and it will continue. Now, to have this the power of this kind of plug-in, you're just going to have to check around for your animation or your graphic software and see what is available, because this is really what brings it to life. What I did on this star field is I limited the numbers of particles after their initial emission. And so to show you that, we have particles per second here, and what I do is I establish a certain amount that I like, 500 to begin with here, go 1 frame and then shut it down. There's my keyframe, it goes down to 0. So I don't want stars to be continually shooting out, birthing, and this emitter continually birthing stars all over the place. I want them to be fixed and remain constant throughout the animation. So from this point on, no more new stars are coming. It's just the same stars. We go into a little bit down here. There's some different great options with this Trapco particular. Each object can have a velocity that's related to its motion and randomness to it. I won't go into a lot of details on that, but at this part right here, we talk about the actual particles themselves and how they are created. Each one has a lifespan, so you adjust the lifespan to make sure that it's going to last throughout. Now, I made some mistakes on one of mine. It was actually the Centaurus galaxy, and I'm not sure if it was a lifespan issue. Let's see, this thing will pull up for me here. Stuck for a second. Okay. Let's see, where was it? I noticed that on the animation. I don't know why I didn't catch it before, but I see some stars that all of a sudden pop on. That shouldn't have happened, and I believe what the problem was is, like, there's one right there, and it happened a couple more times. And I think what was happening was the stars were being blocked by another layer on top. Stars should have been on top, and I just did not catch that. So let me go back over here to Tarantula Nebula, and in the stars themselves, one of the things in this particular image, we have captured a lot of, let's see, light and stars that are multicolored. They weren't, some of the images, they come out very, very white, almost all of them. Well, in particular, you can change the type of stars coloring and the randomness of that color. And where are we here? Let's see. I'm not seeing my field here. What's going on? I must have come in way too close. Nope. Let me see here. I'll pause this for just a second. Okay, I figured it out. I had another level that was clicked on there and soloed the wrong level there. Okay, but yeah, you can see there's some dimensionality to our color here, and we do that by, as you choose a particular color for your stars, your objects, you can change the randomness of those. And I didn't want it to be a huge change, just a subtle type of change in there. Okay. And am I on the right one? No, I'm not. Here we go. Here's our stars. Still clicked on the wrong particular one. Here's particles. Here's my color. I gave it about a 50% variance in their overall shading. Okay, one more element that I put into this animation was the space dust. And using the very same particular plugin, what I've done is brought in, as the camera gets to a certain spot in the animation, I want to bring in the element of some of this space dust subtly, very subtly, and then have it go back out as if you're traveling through, and it all of a sudden becomes so apparent that you're in the middle of it, and then you actually pass through it and you get further into the nebula. So to do that, what I've done is created more particles in space and used much more of a blur effect on them using a different kind of particle. We use the cloudlet particle. We soften up our opacity. We lower it way down, increase the size, and that's what gives us this extra layer of dimension. And as the camera travels through, we're gonna feel them, fall away from us. So in the animation, it comes together like this. There's also extra little features I put onto this one. I think there was a glow effect. The glow effect helps to make your particles stand out some. Without the glow, there, you almost don't see them at all. Okay. And again, with particular, you can set up the first emission of the particles and then shut it off so that you don't have them just constantly flooding your screen with more new dust particles. You want to keep a relative control over that. So I started out with 500 particles again and then shut it down after one frame and then gave them a lifespan to last throughout the animation. Okay, let's see. And then again, let's see, you can color that, and I kind of picked up a little bit of the hues of the, I guess, the magenta in this region, and just tried to bring something in that would seem to fit like that. What that also does, though, is it's an extra layer. So we've got the two layers of the nebula. We've got the stars that we're passing through the fields, and then we've got this layer of cloud space dust, and all of those working together helps bring that illusion of drifting into something. And then here you see more parallax as the camera stops and then moves closer into our image to the point where it's almost too close as far as graininess. You can get to that spot where it's sort of a sweet spot where you can get a lot of parallax going. Okay, my system has pretty good resources, but to actually render this out, it would take more time than we would probably want to spend on it. One of the things you'll notice here is that as I cut off some of the bottom here, as I was rotating the camera in, it looks to be like that doesn't work, but actually in the final rendition I zoom in or scale up my overall animation and cuts out a lot of that. Okay, let's see, what else do we have here? Again, you want to incorporate a 3D camera, and this particular camera software allows you to control the position of the camera, its point of interest, and move those around as you choose. Let's see here, I'll go to my camera controls, and here we go. So I'm not going to keep this, but I'm just showing you here the different layers that are going on inside this animation. We've got dust, we've got the background masked out image, and all of this is working together to help create that illusion of 3D space. None of which would be possible if we didn't have our original Slooh images that are so beautiful from these telescopes. One of the things I've enjoyed is learning so much about these as I've kind of looked in and figured what I wanted to do with the animations. Then it's causing me to do a lot more research, and I found out, wow, how far these objects are away from us, and the ability of these telescopes is just incredible. Okay, on my top layer here, it's an adjustment layer, so it doesn't have a real input into the scene. It's just helping to give us extra sharpness and level correction. I thought it was just a little bit too light and too blurry, and so what I did is just basic levels adjustment here, and crushed down a lot of the white and kept the contrast up, and then sharpened it with an unsharp mask. Okay, maybe just a little bit too much on that. Probably could have gone with a little bit less of that sharpening effect to help bring out some more of the natural curves of the space here that are sort of getting choppy on that. And let's see. Okay, so then once I finish all of this, what I do is I render out my animation and I bring it into one final composition. And this composition is what I just leave for two effects: the titling, and in this case, we have the Tarantula Nebula. So I've got my basic animation now that's already been pre-rendered. Let me get this out just a little bit. And I bring the titles in twice, once in the beginning, once at the end. And then also the Slooh logo. I wanted to get that on, so Slooh makes it so convenient to download those different telescope logos, and I try to do as best I can to keep those as accurate as possible. And one other element that I put into this at this point is the camera optical flare that hits the camera. And if you've ever gone on any of NASA's space telescopes, you'll notice there's always these weird looking planet things that are actually just light flares on the camera. And what I do on this is use a special plug-in. There it is, optical flares, and kind of keep it down. I don't like to have it overwhelming my image. I don't want it to distract from what's really the focus of the image, but a little softness out here, it helps just bring more realism into the animation to make it appear that we're actually traveling out in space, to have that flare. And one of the nice things about this particular plug-in is it allows us to do a flicker effect here, so we can have this soft in and out kind of glow that looks like it's reacting to different objects blocking the light and then not blocking the light and changing its angle. So for instance, we've got at this point here, camera goes to a certain spot and then starts to dip, and as it dips, we're also going through that cloud layer. Hope you can follow that. But what we've done is change the angle of the flaring to match how our angle on the light source, which is way up here, is, and then it comes around, and as the camera goes back up towards the light source, the outglow of the flare reverses here, and so it's hard to really see it well on this. If I change my resolution, it would be even worse here. But hopefully you've gotten that idea there and how that works. Again, for me, I really enjoy working on these, and I wish I had more time. If I was a full-time graphic artist, I would do this, but unfortunately I have to pay bills and work in a couple of different part-time activities, from construction to working as a substitute teacher. But I do dearly love this community and everything. I'm just going to show you a couple of things. I think the biggest part of this process is getting to know the animation that you want to create, getting to study the object and get a good feel for where you're heading before you ever begin, because you can burn a lot of midnight oil redoing things if you really don't have a firm, solid idea of what you really want to create. And while this thing is rendering right here, I'm going to show you a couple of websites that I found really helpful. And I just got to pick the right one here. Let's go here. Okay, for instance, when I was working on the Centaurus video here, I really enjoyed finding out more about Centaurus, and I saw this fantastic explosive supernova, and just the information I found out about how there's two galaxies colliding there together, also how far away they are, just incredible that the telescopes can reach into that. And so I wanted, after doing that research, I wanted to achieve that. I wanted to be able to set my stage with the wide angle image, and then travel through space, then use the close-up image here as a second, and I'm actually using that same one twice, but in this one, then I wanted to get in and actually really see some activity going on with two galaxies. Now the image didn't support all that, so I ended up putting in some extra star fields here inside, and they're actually moving around a little bit. There's some spreading out, scaling up, and then actually had that supernova in my head, so I created an optical flare to create that, and then used an extra little element of animation to create this fireball explosion inside. And of course, the idea with all of this is to also move that object. I'm actually rotating. If I showed you in the layer, I'm actually rotating the 2D image in space as I also move my camera about it in space. Now they're changing their angles, but it's slightly. It's not like it looks like some kind of a pan that's just twirling on a string, but because the angle of the camera is moving with it's moving in at the same level of change, but in an opposite direction as the image itself is rotating clockwise, my camera is rotating counterclockwise, and that helps to achieve some extra realism of 3D environment. And then of course the activity that draws you in is happening here in the center, and it would be really difficult to go into a lot of how those plugins work at this point. Just hoping that some of this process is coming through and that you're able to see some of the basic elements that are really necessary. And if you do have After Effects, I cannot recommend my good buddy Andrew Kramer at videocopilot.com. He does incredible things with this program of After Effects. And all you have to do is just check out his website. His tutorials are all free, and he goes into hundreds and hundreds of different types of things that you can achieve. This is downtown LA, and he smashed it all up, and then he had to put it all back together after he shot this film. No, this is all 3D animated graphics that are CG, and if you really want to know how you can take a 2D image and change it into 3D environment, this is the guy you need to check out. He's also got some really wonderful plugins for After Effects. All right, there's my plug for Andrew. Really enjoy being in the Slooh Clubhouse, and I hope that this little tutorial has helped you. I don't know if you've checked out my latest tutorial, animation. This guy is still working here. We're going to let him finish up here for just a few minutes. I hope that I have plenty of time to devote to this when as I progress as a community member here. I'm looking forward to seeing some more of the activities that are going on with Slooh. And let's see, if you have any questions, feel free to pop me a line anytime there from the clubhouse. I'd be happy to help you in any way I can. I'm just going to go ahead and let this thing go right now. Notice the parallax here. This is our particle system flying by the camera. You get to a certain point though and the image breaks down. You can't go any much closer, so you have to go from the wide to this is my wide shot of the Carina Nebula, and then I go to the close-up of that nebula. And I did in this particular with this particular shot, the particle system for the space dust really made it come to life because it's three-dimensional and it works with the camera and the lights in the scene. Let me see if I can pick out my source of my particles. Here we go. Where the dust? Here we go. Without them, I'm left with a very you know, interesting but at the same time flat image. So this helps achieve that effect of actually being out in the middle of this great nebula. And one of the things also I wanted to mention here, when I was doing that research, I really wanted to bring to life the center of these two colliding galaxies. And to do that, let's see. Oh, here's before I say that though, here's an example of too much flare. Okay, and I just wanted to show that all of the elements of a 3D animation, you want to make them work together and not have one become too distracting. And my main focus point wants to be right here in the center in this supernova explosion of massive energy. And so on this particular one, I would take out my lens flare and not let it interrupt the focus for the audience. But in the center here, it's really hard to see how I really worked hard to get this star field. But there's a little object that's in there, it's rotating, and it's my ball of fire here. And what it does is it's what creates the big explosion. And this is a little composition that does all the super exploding, because what I do is I bring it into this, I set it to a screen mode, transfer mode, and allow it to scale way up, but in a gentle motion along with the staying track to the center of this object, so that as that object moves, the exploding ball is also moving along with the center, and then as it expands, contracts, or dissipates. And really enjoyed working on the recent files that I got. Jonathan forwarded to me of Comet Ison. And this was such a beautiful shot of composite or mosaic of three different images together, and I wanted to just bring all of those together the best I could to make it seem as if you were going along with it. The thing I did not really achieve very well is the long shot of the, and I'm still actually trying to work on a particle system here that might look more interesting than what I had put up earlier. The tail of it before was just sort of hanging out there, and it didn't seem to interact with the background. I've got something now working here, but it's a process to make it look realistic. All right. Again, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this wonderful community. I'm looking forward to getting to know more here and sharing more tips and tricks on how we can share these wonderful, beautiful Slooh images. Thank you to Paul for being so gracious and open to inviting me to share here today. Again, got any questions, feel free to give me a holla.